this video is going to be about war, the military, the geopolitical situation. Okay? So everybody wants to know, are we getting closer to World War III? In some ways we're already in it. There's some aspects of global conflict that's already apparent, and there's definitely, on the economic level, a huge conflict that's already breaking out, and we see a lot of this since 2008, stock market crashes. There's a much more huge, I should say, crash coming, and we have reports last week about billionaires dumping their stocks, even though at the same time we see a record high on the indexes, the Dow and all this and that, the different measuring indicators. But you have to realize that everything's on auto trading. So there's computers that are programmed ahead of time to do these things on algorithms and whatnot. So this is not people making any decisions to sell. You can't look at these indicators and say, oh, more people are getting into the stock market and buying, and there's a lot of activity. No, there's not any activity. It's just all designed that way by the computers to make activity. So that's not real activity. That's not a sign that people are doing any business. So this is a very false, illusionary system that everybody should get out of. But being that it's the only game in town, it's like the only biggest global casino, people play it. Then you got the Japanese, the Nikkei, and this and that. They're all tied in, but some of the factions or spheres of influence are trying to get independent, and this is where the economic side of the war is shaping up. They've always been talking about the GDP and how much money is being made and then how much money is being created. So it brings the value of every unit down, is deflation of the dollars and all the other currency. So it begins a currency war because national banks try to stabilize in light of all this QE, the quantitative easing. And when they really try to pull out and become, these independent bastions, then those that are staying in the empire will be picking fights. I'm not going to say who right now, but we're going to look at some of the signs around Iran. Iran seems to be under the gun, and the sanctions are against their technology development, or as what's feared or in the propaganda, their weapons production. It's uranium enrichment. So technically they've put out these new rules in the agreements, and the United States is involved, NATO, Iran, and some, the other involved countries. Russia has a stake of interest in this, and I believe also China. You got to understand that Iran is a major power. It's a historical power. It was Persia. You've seen the movie 300, right? It wasn't just about the Shah of Iran, the puppet. It's about their oil that they had at the time, and when they took it over from the British, there's always been a grudge in this past century. if you want to count the last 100 years. You know, call it the 20th century, the 21st century, whatever the dividing line is in time. But this grudge is going on, and Iran is the power because it was able to take over its petroleum reserves and industry, and it makes a lot of money on that. So I believe they sell some to China. I believe that Russia is a major buyer. So you look up those stats and you figure out why other forces in the empire want to put their foot on Iran and stomp them. So the interesting thing, and this is not breaking news because it happened last week, and I wasn't going to talk about it because I need to reflect on the bigger picture. It's not just about Iran. It's geopolitical, okay? When you see that Kerry, Secretary of State, is saying everything's good, and it's the Obama administration moving things along, getting what they want, negotiating. That's fine and dandy, okay? I'm glad for something. But overall, what does it mean? Because you have this big question of the United States and UK and NATO continuing to be the policemen. Who's calling the kettle black? Other countries can use this argument and say, well, why can't we develop? You're the ones that have developed it first, and you're preventing everybody else from getting to that level because you fear us. But you've already made us fear you. So what's fair about that? Well, the balance of power always shifts. If you carefully study history, you cannot know about when World War is coming. You cannot predict it. You can't even understand the causes when you're in the middle of it unless you've studied history. So this is not an easy game to be watching or playing. Here's the clincher. Israel is not happy. That's nothing new. But Netanyahu came out and said that there's betrayal. He characterized this in his English speaking as a terrible mistake by the United States. So I heard from a friend who told me emphatically that Netanyahu and Obama never get along and they really don't like each other. And I said, really? 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 Interesting. So the factions that put in Obama were not that friendly toward Israel. Not as friendly as they've always had it. Since going back through the Bushes, Clinton, Reagan, also Carter. But I do know that Carter has been critical, former president, criticizing Israel's extra influence, put it that way. So maybe Carter's wising up even more. I believe he was a semi-decent president post FDR. But let's get to the president here. The president says that Israel's not happy. What are they going to do about it? Well, they can do a lot, because Syria is like a buffer to everything that might go on. Whatever happens in Syria, they're taking the brunt of possibly what might happen, or possibly what we don't want to happen. We're seeing indications by the ongoing struggle and violence in Syria. Israel is letting it rip. It's to their benefit. But here's the talk now. I don't know how much of this is true, but Israel and Saudi Arabia may be doing a joint exercise. If they're working together, on a common enemy, Iran. That would be pretty interesting. I wonder if anybody else has evidence or theories on this. Now I'm going to end with kind of a segue to, I have to do another video on the Pacific, what's going on in the Eastern Pacific off the coast of China and the Japanese islands and this kind of thing. It's ramping up right now. So we're going to do a whole other video about the Pacific Theater. And I'll go into the next video for all this. Thanks for watching. Please leave your comments and share this video for those that want to know about the military activities of the world.